Bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well, laboring the word and doctrine. Shalom, meaning peace, make that be into the elect of the nation of Israel. We're in Matthew, the 23rd chapter. And this chapter, Yahawashi was going in, rebuking, reproving the Pharisees, the scribes. And rebuke and reproof is biblical love, contrary to popular belief or secular belief, but contrary belief even within them that know that they're Israel today. A lot of them take issue with the idea of reproval or rebuke. But anyway, Matthew 23 and verse 1, it said, Then spake Yahawashi to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Right, meaning they sit in the seat of the lawyers, right, them that have the law. The law was given specifically to the Levites. Moses was of the tribe of Levi. Right, verse 3. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say it and do not. So that's a point that people make in modern Christendom, right, plantation Christianity, the one that was whipped into us on the plantation, on the reservations, so on and so forth. They pushed the idea that the Pharisees were all about the law, so we shouldn't keep the law. The Pharisees were bad. The Messiah got on them because they were pushing the law so heavy. It wasn't that they were pushing the law, because he said, whatever they bid you observe, that observe and do, because they were going into the books and they were telling you, well, keep the law. Do this with the law, do that. But they weren't doing it of themselves, right? So they were putting on heavy burdens on men, but they couldn't keep it themselves, right? And the point is that we're not saved by the law, right? The law is good if a man use it lawfully. Apostle Paul spake on that, right? But that stands to reason if the law is good if a man use it lawfully. The law could be used unlawfully, right? You can try use loopholes, like they would always try to catch the Messiah in his words, right? Try to say, well, what about this? Ask him about divorce, to try and catch him in his words, to try and get him to speak against the law. But he was the law made flesh, the word made flesh, therefore the law made flesh, so they couldn't do it. Verse 4, it says, For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. Right, so they're telling people, you need to do this, you need to do that. They can't even do it themselves. So that's confusion. They were hypocrites. That's the leaven of the Pharisees. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Verse 5, But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments. I love the uppermost rooms at feasts and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplaces to be called, to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. So that shows you the fringes. Nothing wrong with fringes, but the excessive, outer appearance and their heart inwardly is is corrupt. Isaiah spake of these people, with their lips, they get lip service. With their lips, they do honor the Heavenly Father, but their heart is far from. So they talk in this, they look the part. But Apostle Paul said in Romans, the 2nd chapter, let's pull that so I don't butcher it. I'm trying to paraphrase it. Right, Romans 2 and Romans 2 and verse 28 says, For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High. Excuse that slip. I'll read that last one again. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High. All right, so that's what we need to be aiming for. All right, to be a Jew, to be a believer, because it's not just being of the tribes. You need to be behaving like unto Yasharallah, like unto one of the princes of the power. Right, but the Pharisees, the scribes, they weren't doing that. So beware, take heed, and observe. Beware of men. I'll say it like that. Not everyone just because they call themselves Israel, because they have fringes, they have a beard. They have a big beard down to their foot. Large fringes trailing, draping, across the whole street. but it doesn't mean the righteous. So you need to be aware of that. Matthew 23 and verse 8. But be ye not called rabbi, but be not ye called rabbi, for one is your master, even Hamashiach, and all ye are brethren. So we've got one master. Now there's order, like even Yahawashi gave Peter the keys of the church, but ultimately we're all brothers, and our head is Hamashiach. It says, and call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Mashiach, right? Even the Messiah, the anointed. It says, but he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. All right, so it talks about in Sirach, in Ecclesiasticus, the greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Okay, and again verse 12 now. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So it says the meek shall inherit the earth. And so the true way to become unto that rulership position is taking low, becoming a servant, being humble. Again, the greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Verse 13 says, but woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. So they were trying to bind, big burdens upon people, to the point that even if you were to take the standard of what the Pharisees, the scribes were putting on people, they weren't meeting it. So that is, again, that's confusion. And it was basically making people hesitant, making people believe that if they weren't doing that, they had no chance. It says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer, therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. And Yahawashi spake about that in the Lord's Prayer. The heathen do that. There is Matthew 6 and 7, but when you pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Right, so making long utterances. Well, I prayed for 5 days straight. I didn't drink, I didn't eat. Boasting in that. And when you're making your prayer, you're meant to do it in a closet. Basically go into your room, close the door, not pray out in the street. Look at me, I'm righteous, I'm righteous, I'm righteous. Because that's again to be seen of men. Matthew 23 verse 15 says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you compass sea and land to make one proselyte, which basically means convert or a revert, coming back to your heritage, the faith, coming back to your God, the reconciliation. To make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Right, so because you're teaching him the ways going off, he becomes worse than you. Right, so beware of the Pharisees. Keep it brief and to the point. Lord willing, that's edifying. All praises to Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Shalom.